So as I mentioned in the intro there, one of the key themes about today is going to be psychological safety. We've not had a guest on yet specifically talking about this. And with your experience across all those different areas, this is a particular passion of yours at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, look, it is. And it sort of probably stems from some of the work that was done initially by the International Labour Organization. So I always find it helpful for people to understand where this came from. So about 5 to 7 years ago, the ILO, that sets the international policy for work health and safety and labour inspection, passed Convention number 190, and that was around violence discrimination at work. But effectively, the ILO created and the UN created a fundamental human right for safe work, and that included physical safety, but also safety free from violence, discrimination, harassment. So that was the international law basis for where psych safety came from. Now, if you're a country that signed up to the UN and the ILO, then you have an expectation that you will transfer that international convention into domestic law. Okay. So you generally get a few years to do it. Some countries are pretty quick, others drag their heels. Australia was pretty quick. It just, no one really paid a lot of attention to it, and regulators didn't really regulate it. So therefore businesses didn't really have a driver to do a lot around it. It was all focused on physical safety. Yeah. So we decided, in order to create visibility, we'd put some specific legislation in the regulations, and that board directed Safe Work Australia to do that. So that code of practice gave 14 hazards of how psychological injury can occur. It's not the definitive list, but it's pretty close to the main ones. And it said to businesses, off you go.
You know, it's so complex, isn't it? Which is why I think you're saying you've got the IR, you've got the HR policies and principles as well. Everything's going to be a complex solution because it's a complex problem, isn't it?
It is, 100%. So if you go and look in the work health and safety law for the definition of bully, you're not going to find it. Yep. You'll find it in the Fair Work Act. The Fair Work Act is industrial relations. So the work health and safety jurisdiction uses the Fair Work definition of bullying because it's a pretty good one. And I keep saying to organizations, you need to treat psychological safety the same way as you do physical safety. The legislation is about managing risk. So you need to understand how those 14 hazards fit in accordance with your business. You need to do a risk assessment, you need to put controls in place, you've got to try and eliminate the hazards. If you can't eliminate it, you reduce it to a level that's reasonably practicable, and then you consult your staff as you go through. It's exactly the same process physically. And it's not like a physical injury, like you can just go and put a guard on the machine and that stops people putting fingers in.
Exactly. And it's the same guard, the same bit of machine, regardless where it is in the world. It's a solution.
Look, I think safety is going to become a little bit more complicated before it gets a bit easier. So I think we've had many years rooted firmly in the safety one, physical safety, which is about having rules, and you breach those rules, you investigate them, you prosecute people, you sack them. That's where it's always been. But importantly, give people the skills and ability to be safety leaders, to work amongst the teams, to ventilate issues, to create psychological safety and trust. Because if you've got trust, psychological safety will come much quicker. And if you've got a psychologically safe environment, people will open up a lot easier and tell you what's right and what's wrong.